Hey guys, what's going on? I hope everyone's day is going amazing and you're ready for a new video. So if you're wondering what I'm doing today, you can probably already guess from the title. I am unoriginal as fuck, so I decided I would copy Tana Mongoose and actually make a story time. Because you know, who doesn't love a good old story told by a guy with a really, really annoying voice? So I hope you're ready for the tea to be spilled, because I know I sure as hell am. So, that cringy joke aside, I thought I would do something like this, and this has been really hard because I tried to film this 2 weeks ago whenever I was in Salford, and it didn't really go to plan, as you can see. And I think the reason it didn't go to plan was I was still afraid. And no, I am not afraid about any of the people that I am talking about in this story. I'm not afraid of the story itself. I was more afraid about getting this story out in the open, because I've probably kept the majority of this to myself for about 4 years. Only my close friends really know. And I just think it's time. Like, you know, I need content and it's my story. I feel like I should tell it. So, without further ado, what we are talking about today is how this very ugly thing came to be. And no, I don't mean my face, I mean my nose and why it is broken. So if you can look at that right now, it's got a little bit of a slant, not even a slant, it's like a bend in it. And so this is how it came to be. For the purposes of this, I am not gonna give proper names, because that means I could be sued for defamation, and who wants that when there's all these copyright laws to stop me from being a productive YouTuber anyway. So this story is going to start off with a little bit of a background. So I grew up being raised by about 3 women, and so I've always been very camp, and I've always been the type of guy who gets along with women more because I am very feminine. I'm not very masculine in a lot of ways, and I just find it easier to communicate with girls because there's a lot of common interests. For example, the music I listen to, music I used to listen to, I think makeup is really cool. I love watching makeup tutorials. I love drama, scandals, the tea being spilled. It was really hard for me growing up because a lot of these kids wanted to play football, wanted to do things that I just wasn't really interested in. Don't get me wrong, I do like a bit of football now. The English football. I enjoy things like that I've come to love over time, but as a kid all I really wanted to do was listen to pop music and play video games occasionally, and I was really into fashion, stuff like that. So going through primary school, it's safe to say I didn't have a lot of friends. So when I got to high school, or secondary school, a lot of people get really butthurt whenever you say high school in the UK, but it's just, to me, it just sounds more normal. So I guess when I started secondary school, I went to an all-boys school. So it was kind of hard to adjust at that point. I didn't really make a lot of friends until I'd say my 3rd year, which for us was year 10. Might be different in England. I think there's a weird year separation. So, but I did have this one friend who was from primary school. And for this video, he's going to be called George. So, George and me were friends in primary school because I moved schools and met him when I moved to a different primary school in P4, I think, primary 4. And we were alright friends. It sort of drifted a bit in high school, secondary school, whatever you want to call it, because just, you know, you meet different people that you get along with more and stuff like that. But then we ended up being in the same friend group. So it all started this one summer. And we were all in a friend group, me and a bunch of other lads, who you would never put us together. And I think I'm still friends with 3 of them that I keep in contact with. So we were a group, you wouldn't put us together in the sense that not a lot of common interests, well, at least on my side, because, you know, for me, this was a lot of people were always well, how come you became friends with these guys? They're very athletic, they're into their football, they're you know, men, and you're not. I remember these girls that came over, I think the year before, who I became really, really good friends with, and I'm still good friends with these days. And I think everyone in my friend group had a thing for one of them at one point. I don't know whether if that's to do because we were all boys and these girls have suddenly became in our friend group, or just any other reason, you know, you never know. You know what it's like, a bunch of guys and girls join, always competing with each other to try and get the attention, no matter whether you like them or not. It's just a thing that kids do. And I became really close with the girls for the sheer fact that I had a lot of common interests with them, like Justin Bieber, Cody Simpson at the time, music like that. Just loads of things, and it was easier to get along with them than the guys a lot, and I got the piss took out of me all the time for this by the guys in the group, you know. But the story went on, so time passed, whatever, and then George ended up going out with one of the girls who a lot of the guys had like a little thing for him. For this, we're going to call the girl Lucy. So George and Lucy like hit it off, and they were seeing each other, and I think everyone sort of knew I had like this little childish crush on Lucy. And the reason for that was, I don't know, like when you spend so much time with someone, I think you sort of, I personally never thought of it like having like this big mad crush or being in love with someone. It was just this childish thing. I was like, this girl is actually paying attention to me in the fact that we're friends, and she was really friendly to me, and I wasn't very sociable and I didn't talk to girls a lot, and I just liked having a friend. I liked having someone that I don't know, really saw like the qualities in me that other people didn't see when it came to friendship, stuff like that. So anyway, so time went on, and I remember Lucy's cousin was not a big fan of me, and he also liked to cause a bit of mischief. And I remember one day I walked in to school and everyone was staring at me, and I found out the reason why. We all used to go to this like youth group and do stuff, and I remember that night that George wasn't there, and basically like we always used to walk the girls home, because you can't leave girls alone in Belfast really, or at least you couldn't back in the day with all the stuff going on. It's not a really safe place, the same as anywhere, and you're always taught with manners, you know, you don't really let people walk home alone no matter who it is. And so I ended up walking home with them, and I think at one point me and the girl Lucy were walking, just me and her talking, while the rest were like dragging along. It was just because that's what people did, you know, you talk to the people you're having the best conversation with, and everyone walks at different speeds. That's sort of stuff. But we went into school the next day, and let's just say Lucy's cousin was not a big fan of me, and he liked to cause a bit of mischief. So he went and told George that I was trying to make a move on Lucy, essentially, and telling everyone, now this is only what I've heard, and this is what people have told me over the past, like I think this happened 4 years ago maybe, and this is what people have told me. And it could be wrong, I could be wrong, I could have some facts wrong, but I'm only going by what I have heard. So I got told that Lucy's cousin had told George, amongst others, that I made a move on her, I tried this, I tried that, and people got really annoyed at it, and they started to wind George up, and they started to make him so angry that all he wanted to do was beat the shit out of me, apparently. So we had this thing called break time in school, where you would go for 10 to 15 minutes, have a bit of food between the second and third periods in school, and you would associate with your mates, go see them, and then come back in. And so I remember going out at break time into the schoolyard and seeing all these boys over there trying to call me, and I don't know why, I just had a gut feeling. When you see some of the people he was associated with at the time around him, you're like, yeah, I don't really want to be a part of that. So, and I also had like my own friends and stuff like that in school that I like to see at different times, because like the people I was friends with in school, who I see mostly outside of school, didn't like the people that I like to see in school, and that's just life. Not everyone likes each other. But anyway, so I had a bad feeling. So I always, like the whole day, I noticed people just like staring at me and whispering and like having little things to say, and I don't really know what it was, and if I was just paranoid, but I definitely felt like something was wrong. So I ended up going out at lunchtime, and I was really bad because I used to like sneak out and go to the shops and stuff when you weren't supposed to, because I was a bit young at the time, and then we finally got the permission to go out, so every lunchtime I would go out and try and get stuff in the shop. Anyway, I went down, got stuff, came back, fueled my energy drink addiction, and I seen George with all these different people crowded around, and again, they're all calling me over doing this and that, and I stayed awake, so it just looked bad. And he was giving me this death stare. Like this really, really bad stare, like into my soul, and I just sort of looked at him and was like, shit, I am not gonna go over there, because in my head, I thought I had probably made a joke or something, and he had took it the wrong way, or someone had like told him something like as a piss take, and he's probably really annoyed about it because he gets annoyed very easily. And so I just left it, walked away, etc. And so the bell rang, we're going in from lunchtime, and I'm walking through the corridor, and one of my friends, I was going to maths, or MAVs, or whatever you call it, and I'm really shit at it. I actually have a learning disability called dyscalculia, and so I'm really bad at maths. And so I was walking past in my own little world, fretting the fact that I'm gonna have to spend like the next hour and a half in this subject that I hate. And one of my friends who's in a different class, because we got separated in school based on like your intelligence, like your academic performance and intelligence, and how like, and one of my friends was in a higher class than me, and so when I was walking past, he grabbed me and was like, hey, I want to talk to you for a second, shouting after me. And I'm wondering, oh, why is he shouting after me or whatever? And then I was near my classroom and I went to turn, and the next minute, all I felt was a bang across my face, and I was like stunned, like what's going on? And then another bang and bang.
Is wearing shoes, so he will not be able to strike with the feet. Oh, he does with the hands though.
Bang! And then the next minute I couldn't see anything. My blazer was thrown over my head. I was like blinded. I couldn't see anything at all. I was like freaking out. I just kept feeling these massive blows going into my face. I felt like at one point, like a knee or like a leg or something going into my stomach, and the shit being beaten out of me. I just remember taking off the blazer, like shaking, literally like shaking. And I seen George, the next minute I got spat on, and I was like shocked. I was like, what had just happened? This guy I'd been friends with for like, at that point, probably like 8 years, it just assaulted me, it just beat the living shit out of me for nothing. And the scariest part was like, whenever I was getting all these blows, all I heard in my head was a big, and then I felt like blood starting to come like down into my mouth and stuff like that. And the next minute, a teacher grabbed him and pulled him back, and they're in their classroom. And I was so in shock that I just sort of walked into my classroom, and I was just stunned, and everyone's looking at me like, what's wrong with Ben, what's going on? And they saw the blood and they're like, are you okay? And I was like on the verge of crying, but still too shocked to cry. And so I just sort of said to my maths teacher, I was like, I was just in a fight, I think. And she just looked at me and she was like, wait, you were in a fight? And I was like, I think so. And everyone's just looking around or whatever. And the next minute, one of these teachers had like knocked the door and asked me to come outside and like explain what had happened. I did, went back in. At the next minute, a higher status teacher came, who I actually liked at the time, and knocked the door and brought me out. And she's talking to me in the hallway, and she's like, I can't believe what I've just heard, and I can't believe that happened. And I was like, same. I was like, what did happen? And she was like, I seen the fight from the corner of my eye. I was just coming out and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, okay. And she was like, I can't believe you've done that. And
So basically, what I was thinking of was, oh fuck, I can't believe you've done this.
I done what? And she's like, I can't believe that you were flirting with his girlfriend last night and tried to make a move on her. And I went, what? And she's like, well, that's why this just happened. And I was like, no. I was like, I'm just friends with her, and I just got assaulted. And she's like, no. She was like, you have just caused this to yourself because you tried to get his girlfriend to cheat on him. And I was like, no. And she's like, I don't believe you, because her exact words were, I know what you're like. And I was like, what? You know what I'm like? And she's like, I know what you're like when you always try to go for girls and stuff. And I was like, thinking to myself, one, I looked like this. Two, I had no self-confidence whatsoever with girls, so I don't know what she was implying with, I know what you're like for girls. And three, I look like this. How is this competing with anything? Come on. And the next minute, I remember him coming out of the classroom a bit when I was explaining my side of the story, and my heart stopped. I was so scared. I was like this wild like animal who had been hunted. I was shivering. And she had then told him to go inside, and she said, look, because at this point there was like a lot of bad publicity with the school, so now I sort of understand what she was like getting at. But she sort of said to me, she was like, look, I can either suspend you for this or give you loads of detentions, or you can go home for the day, think about what you've done and come back tomorrow. And she was like, if you tell your mum about this and this becomes a big thing, I'm going to make sure that you're thrown out of the school. And because at this point my mum was like, the protests were happening in Belfast and the riots and stuff like that over the City Hall flag, and my mum was like trying to be like a political figure at the time. She was like getting involved with parties, she's trying to make a difference, and with all this bad publicity in the school, I reckon that the teacher thought she was gonna try and kick up a stick about it. I don't know. And she was like, if this comes back and this turns into a much bigger thing, you're going to be out of the school. So little did I know at this time that the teacher couldn't actually do this. This is like blackmail and stuff. But I was so scared because my whole family had always tried to drill into me, because I got bullied a lot as a kid, and they were always like, we don't care whatever happens, if you get suspended, detention, or in a fight, as long as you fight back. And the one thing playing in my mind, which was stupid at the time, was I didn't fight back, and I didn't have a chance to fight back, and I just felt so like ashamed. I felt like, well, was this my fault? And for like a long time I used to think to myself, was this my fault, and victim shame myself? Whereas now I'm smart enough and confident enough to say, no, it was not my fucking fault. People who get abused physically and mentally or verbally or whatever the fuck happens and they get like hurt, if it's not your fault, it's not your fault, and you need to believe that in yourself. Because for weeks I had people coming up to me and saying to me like, oh, I heard you flirted with his girlfriend, oh, I heard you done this, and oh, you kind of deserve to get your nose fractured. I fucking did not. So anyway, I left school early that day because I had been allowed, which I'm pretty sure I didn't even sign out that day, I don't think. Anyway, went home, and essentially I hid from my mum because I don't know, I just didn't want to show her. And I got in, they were like, did something happen to you? Your face is really red. What is going on with your nose? Your nose looks really like inflamed and stuff. Because thankfully at this point it was just so inflamed that you couldn't really see that it was like fractured or broken or whatever. I say fractured because the doctors say like there's a difference between fracturing it and breaking it. And I was like, oh no, I sort of fell today when I was in school, headed off the door or whatever. And she tells me now she knew something was up, but she didn't want to question it. So I remember that happened, I think it was at the start of the week. In the next 3 days or whatever for school, I didn't come in. I went down to my aunt's house because she was always out during the days with my spare key, and hid in her house reading like skullduggery pleasant books, because I was so afraid to go to school, to face all of this again, to face him, to get in this atmosphere. And it was just really scary. And the only reason that I actually think I had the confidence to go back to school after that week was because I nearly got caught like hiding in her house, like not going to school. And it was like a really traumatic time. And I noticed that after this had happened, a lot of things started happening with my voice and with my breathing and stuff. And because my nose is fractured, I couldn't breathe properly, and I still can't breathe out of the right side of my nose. And when I sing, I used to love singing. I used to be able to sing really high, and it was my favorite thing to do and stuff. I used to perform. And now I can't, because whenever I try to do anything that isn't basic, my whole throat blocks up and my nose blocks up, and I can't like breathe, let alone sing. And it's terrible. Like when I sleep, I can't breathe properly. I wake up 4 times out of the week, and my nose blocks up and down my throat, and I can't breathe at all. And I just remember like thinking, oh, I'm not going to sing properly again, which should have been the least of my worries. But then I had an event to perform at, which I did, and you should have heard how bad it was. Here, I just couldn't live with this. And also, I had to go to speech therapy for a few months because I couldn't speak properly, because now I couldn't speak from my diaphragm, sing from my diaphragm, do anything, because I could not breathe properly. So I was trying to speak, and even now when I speak normally, it's like my voice goes like a little bit hoarse. And this isn't me putting it on. This is like what actually happens if I don't like enunciate my words or put so much like extra care into speaking. And people always say, oh, you sound really posh, you're trying to sound English and you're changing your accent. It's not. It's because I have to literally put so much emphasis into everything I say, or it just comes out all like croaky and windy and terrible. So yeah, and I remember going to speech therapy and they're like, oh, why is this happening and stuff, and like, what's going on? And then at one point I got my mum to take me because I didn't think it was my nose. I thought I was like, do I have vocal nodules or something, because this just doesn't make sense. And it took me so long to actually go to the doctor about it, because because they classed it as cosmetic rather than health related, because they were like, well, you can still breathe fine enough to live, you don't need anything done to your nose to breathe properly. So I finally went last year to get an x-ray done, and graphs and things, and like to see what can happen with my nose. I remember Charlie took me, and this is what I ended up looking like whenever I was getting the x-rays, in case anyone doesn't believe me. Like an absolute nonce. And they told me you've got a deviated septum, which I think is really common. I'm not really sure. And then they said you've also got a fracture in the bone, you've got a bone dislodged, you've got this wrong, and you've got like a crooked arch and all this stuff that I'd never heard before. And I was like, what? And they were like, also, like if you were to heavily hit your nose again, you could like push a bone up or whatever, because of how like out there it is. And it's scary. So now I've been told that I might be getting an operation hopefully this year. I have to go for another pre-op assessment. Basically my nose is screwed, and so they're going to have to cut from the bottom, go up, completely break the nose, reshape it, take anything extra they don't need out, put someone else's skin tissue in to actually prop the nose up to try and fix my breathing problems, all because this one fucking Egypt decided one day he would break my nose over false accusations which weren't even that deep to begin with, and just basically ruined my life from that point. And I don't think I have seen George in forever. I think I had 1 or 2 interactions with him the entire other part of the high school. And he'll probably see this and be pissed I'm talking about it, but gotta tell my story, gotta tell my side anyway. If he wants to make a video just like Ben Stacey is a bullshitting cunt, by all means, that is the world we live in nowadays. But I remember whenever I finished GCSE and I moved schools, and I used to, one of the main reasons I moved was because the school I was at did not give me enough options to choose from for A level that I wanted to do. They were like forcing me to do loads of different like subjects I didn't have any interest in because it was underfunded, and so I switched for that reason mostly. But there was a part of me that was going to stay on the last day, a part of me that really wanted to stay with my friends and stay in the school and stuff. And then I remember seeing that teacher on the last day, and she came up to me, and my mum asked me what she meant by this, and she was like, oh, are you deciding to move, or are you thinking about it? And I was like, yeah, I'm thinking about leaving. She's like, oh, I think that's for the best. I don't think you were ever really suited for this school. Wow. Okay. So I remember crying in front of this woman before because I had been assaulted, and I was getting accused of all these things which wouldn't even like permit an assault in the first place. And now she's basically just calling me out. And then I remember like a few months later when I started my new school, I came back for a visit to see some of my favorite teachers and stuff like that. And I'd seen her that day as well. And I just remember like hating every second of the conversation because I was so like angry and so pissed off. And I was at one point wanted to switch back because I didn't like my new school, and didn't just because of that sole conversation. And it's scary. And it's scary to think that like it's such an early stage of my life when we were all, you know, young, dumb and broke. And we were all like so insecure of ourselves and things like that were happening, that this could happen, and to most people it would be over within like a few days, you know? It would be like they'd forget about it. But for me, this has affected me so much in every like aspect of my life, and I'm still having to deal with the repercussions like 4 or 5 years on, and having to deal with this shit. And I just felt like I was ready to tell a story, because I remember Shannon had said to me a few months ago when I told her I was thinking about it, and she was like, well, what have you got to lose? And I don't have anything to lose. I'm telling my story the way I want it. I finally have the confidence to, and I needed content really. And I thought, why would I start my Storytime series off with something shit and probably clickbait when I could just talk about something true? So.